following tonight's bombshell. Allegations of Rasheeda's unplanned pregnancy and the more persistent than ever rumors that Mendeecees might be the father. The Hollywood community was in a frenzy. Fans are in utter astonishment about how this has happened, and social media is exploding with grief, anger. What does signify for Yandandi Smith, who has stood behind Mendeecees through thick and thin, and Rasheeda's marriage to Kurt Frost? Those familiar with the matter claim that the drama is unfolding faster than anyone can keep up, involving heated discussions, covert meetings. And when everyone believed that the reality TV industry couldn't get any dirtier, this controversy erupted, leaving behind horrible betrayals, ruined friendships, and a loss of trust. As we investigate, come back frequently, every incredible element of this incredible situation will leave you in awe. From the first suspicious indications to the intense battles that threaten to ruin everything these celebrities have accomplished. But one thing becomes clear at the end. Truth will never. You won't want to miss this scandal. So prepare your popcorn. Like the distant storm on the horizon, the rumor started off slowly, with only private messages and a whisper among close friends. But it soon gained momentum. Even more stunning to Rasheeda's fans than when she revealed her unplanned pregnancy were the suspicions that the baby might not be the child of her longtime husband, Kirk. This was prior to the whispers becoming a loud scream that rocked the entertainment industry as a whole. Rather, Frost was making an unanticipated accusation against Mendeecees, as further purported insiders emerged with stories of secret meetings, late-night phone conversations, and intimate encounters between Rasheeda, and no amount of photos or carefully staged public appearances could mask the uneasiness that those who were truly angered by the incident sensed from the couple, said those close to the couple who had seen a growing distance between Kirk and Rasheeda over the past few months. Tension increased as they went through old social media posts, carefully examining every comment and every subtle exchange between. Rasheeda and Mendeecees find the smoking gun that would confirm their worst fears after an unnamed source revealed texts allegedly exchanged between Rasheeda and male VC's love, longing, and a familiarity that left more questions than answers were all present in these pieces, according to reports. Kirk was taken aback to discover that his marriage was in jeopardy and that his newborn child's paternity was also being investigated. Insiders claim that he confronted it. Was reported that Ray's accusations flew, and that there was a sound of something heavy being thrown against the wall following a furious argument that left them both in tears, according to reports. Kirk asked for clarification, but Rasheeda refused to confirm, or Mendeecees was battling his own storm as he refuted the reports. Yandandi, who had remained faithful in spite of all of Mendeecees' past problems, was reportedly devastated by the accusations and had broken off her relationships with friends and family because she couldn't bear the betrayal, according to those close to her. In a horrific encounter with Mendeecees, she reportedly sought the truth and questioned all they had created together. Mendeecees initially claimed that he and Rasheeda were just friends and denied any wrongdoing. But his denials only helped. Two supporters of the fire began to view earlier video of Mendy and Rasheeda smiling, standing too near, and exchanging glances that suddenly appeared to have hidden meanings. Even seemingly harmless actions, such as a friendly hug or a smile, were being reinterpreted in the harsh light of despite being hazy and unverified. A mystery video that allegedly showed Rasheeda and Mendeecees together at a covert event away from their partners' prying eyes began to circulate online, caused a lot of followers to think that there had been illegal activity going on behind the scenes. While social media erupted with gossip, accusations, and despair, Team Kirk's followers flooded his page with messages of support and encouragement, while others rallied against Rasheeda, accusing her of treachery and dishonesty. Throughout the event, Yandi's fans also shared their feelings, were furious, and suggested that she immediately leave Mendeecees preserve her reputation. Due to their incapacity to handle the situation, Kirk's children reportedly started to distance themselves from Rasheeda before the family was split up. Reports state that when Kirk addressed Mendes right away and demanded explanations in front of a startled audience, tensions between the two men increased. Their chance encounter at a get-together for a mutual acquaintance seems to have caused this. But at one point, friends reportedly had to restrain Kirk to prevent the altercation from getting violent. The DCs allegedly remained calm, saying that Kirk wasn't involved and that the accusations were the result of jealous outsiders who wanted to ruin everyone. Unbelievably, Kirk stated unequivocally that he will seek the truth in court if needed. Rasheeda began to feel increasingly isolated as things grew out of control, and her former friends who had once stood by her began to discreetly turn away. Sponsorship agreements were reportedly canceled because companies didn't want to be associated with such a divisive topic. Whatever the reality, Rasheeda was quickly coming to the conclusion that the stakes were higher than ever and that the damage to her reputation might already be irreversible behind closed doors. Kirk allegedly assured close pals that he needed to know the truth for his family's sake and that, in the worst-case scenario, he would not consider leaving permanently. According to reports, he was discussing his options with lawyers, which included requesting a paternity test and maybe a divorce. According to insiders, Yandi was seen confiding in her closest friends and looking for much-needed spiritual counsel. She found it difficult to accept the growing evidence that something genuinely terrible had occurred or to believe that she had battled so hard for. Kirk and Rasheeda were being harassed by Mendeecees and Yandi, who were taping all of their chats and weeds and shouting intrusive questions to obtain a glimpse of the troubled marriage. Media agencies set up shop outside their residence. An alleged audio clip that appeared to reveal an emotional phone call surfaced as the issue appeared to be getting worse. The internet generated limitless conjecture. The fans looked for answers, and the reality TV community watched warily. The call between Rasheeda and Mendeecees, in which both admitted to having feelings that went beyond friendship, was sufficient to cause it to completely collapse, even if the internet was unable to verify the recording's validity at first. For days, hashtags like #RasheedBetray and #Mendeecees exposed were popular. As the damage from the problem grew, it became clear that Kirk and Yandandi would never be the same again, regardless of how the story ended. The mainstream media began to address the problem, but the horror was only beginning. Intensify. Kirk was unable to eat, sleep, or wake up because he was trapped in a nightmare. When he closed his eyes, all he saw were the unsettling images of Mendeecees and Rasheeda smiling and laughing together. For many close to Kirk, even that now felt like a cruel betrayal. They asserted that Kirk was overcome with anger and disbelief, unable to comprehend how everything he had created with Rasheeda could be disintegrating so abruptly. Even though she was reportedly dealing with problems and felt alone and lonely, spent hours crying by themselves, plagued by regret and anxiety about the future. In an apparent attempt to improve the situation, she had made several attempts to explain things to Kirk, but Kirk was unable to listen. Words alone could not restore the broken confidence. As he shut down Mendeecees, Kirk began reaching out to friends he had shared it with, asking them to vouch for his innocence. To defend his identity, he maintained that even though he and Rasheeda had grown close, their relationship had never turned into anything inappropriate. A former assistant who claimed to have worked closely with Rasheeda disclosed in a startling interview that she witnessed multiple violent events. The whispers had turned into roars that overpowered any opposition. The harm was already done, and the fans had already made up their minds. Once Mendeecees got to Rasheeda, she would brighten up and laugh a little too heartily. This was the kind of evidence that was prohibited. For two people who were supposedly simply pals, Rasheeda and Mendeecees' late-night phone conversations were far too personal, disregarded, and only fueled the fires that were already devouring everyone. Yandandi, still in shock by the betrayal, to act independently. Insiders claim that she had been secretly lawyers to go over her rights in the event that she decided to end the relationship. Mendeecees was torn between her love for him and the shame of being involved in such a major public dispute, according to her close friends and relatives. Rumors that Mendeecees and Yandandi had been discussing expanding their family further complicated the matter. Kirk's family was furious for him and insistent that he get a paternity test immediately, thinking that he should know the truth before making any life-altering decisions, a goal that suddenly seemed painfully unachievable. Kirk was hesitant to accept at first. According to tales she quoted, Kirk's mother bathed him and cried while urging him to protect him and his children. This was the height of the pressure that Rasheeda could have lied to him in such a horrible way. As time passed and his doubts started to erode the memories of the life they had built together, the tension was so great when Kirk got to their shared home that he ultimately decided to give Rasheeda a severe warning. Get a paternity test or else you will be punished. Kirk advised him to utilize his intellect rather than his feelings, and that love alone would not be enough to make up for treachery. Rasheeda, who had been crying for hours, answered the door with a pale, exhausted look and red-rimmed eyes. Her voice was heavy, nearly suffocating. Kirk reportedly told her what was going to happen right away. The confrontation was one of the most painful moments of Kirk's life. Rasheeda reportedly sobbed and vowed that the accusations were false and that she would never again betray him in this manner. But after weeks of pain and uncertainty, Kirk resisted pressure and openly informed her that trust was no longer enough. Rasheeda signed the necessary paperwork with trembling hands after being coerced into agreeing to the test. The internet went into a frenzy after the paternity test was revealed. With some individuals endorsing Kirk's, the days went by as they awaited the test results. Kirk was more worried about his future and protecting himself from further grief. Despite accusations from others that he had humiliated Rasheeda by making the situation public, it was like gradual torment for those involved. Rasheeda reportedly withdrew from society because she was too ashamed to handle the spotlight, while Kirk buried himself in his career as a diversion. Mendeecees, however, are unwavering and continue to share inspirational quotes about perseverance and dedication. Mendeecees' health was declining. According to insiders, and some close to him claimed he had been drinking too much because he was unable to cope with the stress and the possibility of losing everything he had fought so hard to acquire. The behind-the-scenes social media post, however, was viewed as insulting and tone-deaf by many followers. Yandandi, who was still grieving, reportedly moved away for a while to give herself time to consider her wishes. Insiders claim that she left the Mendeecees alone in their shared home, surrounded by recollections of a life that was once theirs. After taking the children with her, when Kirk's legal team allegedly sent Mendeecees a cease and desist letter instructing him to stay away from Rasheeda and to refrain from discussing the matter in public, tensions escalated. Insiders claim that Kirk was committed to safeguarding what little Arusha posted carefully chosen information on social media to appear strong and dignified, preserve what little sense of normalcy she could manage. But he would not tolerate any more disrespect. Persistence, but a lot of people didn't believe it. A flurry of comments greeted each post, accusing her of betraying her child, demanding the truth, and raising doubts about the child's paternity. Her loved ones were afraid she would lose it because of the intense pressure. The entertainment business braced itself for the next bombshell as tensions reached an all-time high. There were rumors that the paternity test results were in, and only a select few insiders were purportedly aware of the facts, but the truth was being kept secret. There was great conjecture regarding whether the findings would corroborate Rasheeda and Mendeecees' assertions, or would the truth that had wrecked so many relationships was confirmed as Kirk, Rasheeda, Mendeecees, and Yandandi waited on the edge of their emotions, wondering who would fall and who would survive the fallout. The paternity test results had a significant impact on their lives. The toll it took on everyone's emotions was so terrible that Kurt was unable to focus on anything. He kept thinking about all the times he had spent with Rasheeda, wondering which smiles were real and which were not. Additionally, he was starting to doubt everything, which made every wonderful recollection seem suspicious. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's anxiety was spiraling out of control. Those who knew her spoke of deep sorrow, insomnia, and panic attacks. According to insiders, Kirk had even contemplated leaving for good, as he could no longer live under the same roof. Where so much betrayal might have taken place, a small part of Rasheeda hoped the results would clear her name and indicate her life was intact, despite the embarrassment and terror, but she was afraid of what would happen if they didn't. She spent hours hidden in her bedroom reading them. Mendeecees made an unsuccessful attempt to keep a low profile in the area, because he was the target of paparazzi who scrutinized and conjectured about everything he did. An explosive story was even published in one publication, an article that implied Mendeecees and Rasheeda had been meeting secretly at a mutual friend's house in the weeks prior to the pregnancy announcement. Featured grainy photos of two persons hugging in a dark driveway. The public expected the worst, even though the names were not confirmed as men. DC supporters rapidly and aggressively attacked Mendeecees, accusing him of hitting him, questioning his dedication, and causing harm to not one but two families there. One proud and unyielding image started to crumble. Friends said that the charges made him very depressed and made him rarely leave his home, because they were participating in such a difficult conversation when Yandi was going through her own. Even her once supportive friends began to distance themselves from her shift, according to her relatives, who stated that the betrayal had increased the vulnerability of her heart. After experiencing public humiliation, she was determined not to be caught off guard again. She was no longer the person who believed that love could conquer all barriers. There were rumors that Yandi was actually even if Yandi's heart hadn't yet accepted it. She seemed to be preparing for the worst when she met with the well-known divorce attorney who was well known for obtaining substantial compensation for the wrong marriages. Kirk held the sealed clinic envelope in his hands as the findings appeared out of nowhere. He trembled as he held it and debated whether to open it in Rasheeda's company or alone. Ultimately, he concluded that he couldn't face her just yet and that he wanted to know the truth in isolation, free from arguments and tears. Kirk received the gift while sitting alone in his car, his heart pounding so loudly he could barely hear anything. He heard nothing more, but suddenly he saw it. He announced clinically and coldly that the child was his. Not believing his own eyes, Kirk's hands shook as he said it again. The kid was his. No man's, no one else's. He was overcome by a wave of feelings including relief, rage, despair, and exhaustion. Since the innocence, love, and trust had already been betrayed, he felt hollow rather than triumphant and vindicated, and it could not be recovered by any piece of paper. Meanwhile, Rasheeda waited for Kirk to call while sitting at home holding her phone. When it did come, she answered shakily on the first ring. Kirk simply gave her the results and hung up without saying anything further. Rasheeda wept into the silence as the betrayal continued in both directions. No one, not even Kirk, had taken her word for it, even though she had been telling the truth all along. Many supporters were shocked when the results were revealed a few hours later, while some immediately apologized for their concerns regarding Rasheeda. Others insisted that although the child was Kirk's, there was still a chance that she and Mendeecees would have an unhealthy relationship. After learning of the affair, DC reportedly withdrew himself for some time to fuel the rumors. According to reports, he was that his name had been mentioned without cause and accused Kirk and Rasheeda, the media, and fans of allowing the narrative to spiral out of control. But her view of the situation was different. Yandi allegedly reminded Mendeecees that a man's involvement in fathering Rasheeda's child did not negate the fact that he had neglected their family and their relationship by bringing their link into the discussion to her or explaining something. Kirk arranged a private meal for the two of them to start the healing process because he was now poor and ashamed of his doubts about Rasheeda. However, the then conclusion was found to be insufficient to rebuild trust, which had to be earned. When he got to the restaurant, Rasheeda wasn't there, but she texted him briefly to let him know she needed some time. Kirk was left waiting after weeks of searching for the answers and the truth, which was a painful irony. Reports state that Love and hip hop executives, feeling bewildered and alone behind the scenes, tried desperately to figure out how to deal with the problem. According to reports, some attempted to capitalize on the disruptions by demanding a special reunion episode that would force Kirk. Rasheeda, Mendeecees, and Yandhi to this quarrel had all the makings of a ratings bonanza. And the entertainment business knew that drama sold. Some, however, were worried that things had gotten out of control and that the viewers' emotional suffering was, too, to be used as a means of boosting ratings, were divided. Some fiercely thought that where there was smoke, there was fire, while others enthusiastically backed Rasheeda and praised her for her resilience and strength. Social media became a battlefield as a result of popular hashtags like #JusticeForIda and #TeamKirk. Everyone had an opinion, and none of them were willing to change, especially when combined with more negative viewpoints like #CANDGate and #cheaters never change. Kirk and Rasheeda struggled to cope with their new reality and went to separate therapy sessions to attempt to work things out as the days turned into weeks. Kirk shattered with grief over not believing her, while Rasheeda battled resentment over her greatest love doubting her. A constant reminder of how quickly love may be destroyed and how readily trust can be violated. The ghost of Mendeecees hovered over everything. The story was far from over. If anything, it was just beginning. But mistrust and whispers had damaged it all. Even though the end test indicated Kirk was the father, it became increasingly clear over the weeks that their relationship would never be the same. Kirk found himself waking up in the middle of the night and staring at the ceiling, wondering how he could have doubted the woman he had vowed to love and protect, despite Rasheeda's former brightness and vibrancy. The severe wounds from public humiliation and mistrust were not getting better. She was quieter and more reserved, close friends said, and she carried a sadness that seemed to accompany her everywhere. She had also stopped laughing and smiling. As her tummy grew, the pregnancy, which ought to have been a time, had turned into a living horror. She was a sign of new life. And the emotional turmoil around her only served to highlight how fake and forced Kirk and Rasheeda's reconciliation attempts seemed. Every therapy session, late-night conversation, and meal was tainted by the irritation, disappointment, and dread they were unable to vocalize. Love and Hip Hop's producers decided that maybe love wasn't enough to problems behind the scenes. After approving a 2-part special that promised viewers an uncensored, unfiltered combat between Kirk, Rasheeda, Mendeecees, and Yandhi, the fans were taken aback. People thought they would all agree to appear together because of the magnitude of betrayal and anguish. However, insiders revealed that due to costly appearance fees and contractual responsibilities, it was challenging to decline. Tension was growing as the day of the tape approached, and Rasheeda hardly talked on the drive as the 4 of them arrived separately. The tension in the studio was evident. Yandhi's and Mendeecees' rigid, cold body language. Cameras were positioned to capture every dramatic moment, while crew members muttered amongst themselves. When they eventually sat down on that infamous couch, Rasheeda broke the stillness. She stared directly at Mendeecees before uttering the words that everyone had been waiting impatiently for. Her voice was solid but trembling as she said, "Did anything ever happen between us? Or is this all just nasty gossip?" He cast an uneasy glance at Yandhi, who sat next to him and had no expression. He shook his head and murmured, "I won't lie. We got too close, and the room blew. Nothing happened at all after what felt like an eternity." Producers rushed in to try to defuse the situation. But the damage was already done. Yandhi's eyes were full of tears. Her hands were shaking in her lap. Rasheeda looked like she had been physically slapped, her whole body shivering from the confession, and Kirk jumped to his feet, his fists clenched in a mask of anger. Even while there may not have been a full-fledged affair, there was an emotional betrayal and intimacy that went beyond all boundaries of loyalty and respect. As seen by the videos of the brawl that went viral online in the days following the taping, it hurt more than any physical agony. In some ways, became well known in just a few minutes, and fans were examining every word, every glance, and every tear. Kurt was accused of not believing Rasheeda at all, while Mendeecees was accused of letting things go out of hand. Others still charged Rasheeda with permitting another man to enter. Come so close at a time when everyone seemed to be suffering and no one was innocent. Yadendi bravely decided to post on social media that she was taking a break from men and the spotlight too. Focus on recovery after feeling humiliated and hurt, while followers praised her strength, and millions of people liked the post, including a photo of her alone on the beach. Mendeecees faced harsh criticism from advertisers who cut off their friendships, split up, leaving him to deal with the fallout on his own. Kirk and Rasheeda made the decision to temporarily pause their relationship, to see if their love could endure the devastation. Kirk then moved to a modest condo across town. Family members from both sides became involved during a particularly moving moment captured on camera while Rasheeda stayed in their home, focusing on her pregnancy and trying to find some peace. While some encouraged them to fight for their marriage, others suggested that it might be time to let go. Fans debated if the couple was getting back together, or if was simply another desperate attempt to keep their romance going when Kirk was seen holding a bouquet of roses and seeming more vulnerable than he has ever been in public. Although Rasheeda was moved, she remained cautious because she knew that forgiveness required actions in addition to words. Insiders claim that that night, Kirk begged Rasheeda's forgiveness and made a sincere apology to her that left them both crying in each other's arms. According to sources, Rasheeda was considering leaving the entertainment industry to relocate once the baby was born, start over, and escape the toxic environment that had all but destroyed her life. Love has the power to heal even the most serious scars. After learning of these rumors, which wounded him, and understanding too late how readily he had let his doubts and worries put a distance between him and his child, Kirk decided to focus on starting a new life for himself and his child away from the spotlight. When their confidence was violated, Yandi and Men's marriage suffered severe emotional damage, even if Mendeecees was cleared by the NA results, even if it meant momentarily letting her leave to pursue happiness. They would do anything to win her back. Both of them realized that rebuilding was nearly impossible, and that the path ahead would be challenging and drawn out at a charity function. A few weeks later, during a rare public appearance devoid of memes, Yandandi was asked, "Love isn't always enough," she said with a bittersweet smile, referring to their relationship. It was Anthos, who had followed their romance over the years, were comforted by the heartbreaking acknowledgement that the dispute that started with a single rumor and left a trail of wounded hearts and diminished self-worth behind. Yet no one escaped unscathed. And although life would continue, the scars of treachery would never heal. This sad incident is a horrifying reminder of how fragile dedication and love can become when put to the test. It is clear from the saga's end that harm has been done. However, Rasheeda's wounds from her journey from betrayal could last a lifetime. His perseverance has astounded fans everywhere. And Kirk's heroic efforts at reconciliation show how many have pondered how fragile love may be when trust is betrayed since Mendeecees and Yandandi's painful breakup, wondering if this argument signaled the start of their relationship's actual healing. Or if when an era comes to an end, the following questions still exist. Will Rasheeda learn strength to go on and forgive Kirk? Or will she choose to start after relocating away from the upsetting memories? Kirk is able to show his love by deeds rather than just words. Is it too traumatic for a reunion? Or does Yandandi have the ability to move past the emotional betrayal? It will become clear how these stories evolve over time, but one thing is for sure, nothing will ever be the same again. And we now want to determine your position within this intricate emotional web and whether you believe Rasheeda she'll break up with Kirk or give him another chance. Will Yandandi and Mendeecees' relationship be damaged or survive the storm? Been finished? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're loving today's exciting drama, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more amazing videos. There will be updates shortly, so be sure to enable notifications so you don't miss the next startling revelation. Started. And we guarantee that you won't want